What is going on, everybody? I hope you're all having an awesome day. My battery is dying, so stupidly I forgot to bring an extra battery. So this is going to be a pretty short video, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Is the G8 a good car for a teenage driver or as a first-time car? And right off the bat, I'm going to say, no, it is not. This car, at least the GT form, if you get a base V6, they have the V6 in them, you know. But the GT has a V8 engine with almost 400 horsepower and rear-wheel drive. And it is too much for a first-time driver or teenage driver as their first car. I was fortunate enough to be able to get this car, to be able to have this car as my first car. But that is because I've been very responsible pretty much my entire life. I'm a very low-key person usually, despite what some people might see in my videos. I'm really low-key, and when it comes down to the fact of teenage drivers and stuff, I have a perfectly clean driving record. I'm 20, and my driving record's been clean. I've never even been pulled over once before, ever, driving this car almost all the time. So I'm like the 2% of like the rest of the teenage drivers that are out there. I'd say 98% of the teenage drivers, if you're a parent looking to get this car, on that level, I don't think this would be a car for them. Now, on the other hand, if you find a V6 G8, still has the great looks to it, it just has less power, and you know, has the practicality and everything. It's basically like the GT, but it just doesn't have the V8. That would be a better alternative if you're stuck on getting your teenage daughter or son a G8, because since it's a V6, you got less power, and obviously there's less chance of him or she crashing it, or, you know, getting a speeding ticket. Now, of course, speeding, that's all relative. I mean, you can speed in a Prius. But in terms of power, losing it, since these are rear-wheel drive cars, the tail can get out really fast, especially with the V8 cars. So I think that's the main reason why I say the V8 G8s are not good for 98% of the people out there. Now, on the other hand, let's say your kid's grown up racing go-karts or is in a motorsport type thing, or is just playing out, you trust him and he's responsible, then yeah, you can probably consider driving, you know, getting one of these cars for your son or daughter. I mean, they're great cars. They're really reliable. He can have fun with them, but, you know, remind him that you can crash quite easily. You know, the stability control is really good. I've gotten the tail out on snow pretty drastically and it's recovered it. So yeah, I would say if they're good with car control, or let's say they've grown up in the motorsports, or if they are responsible like I was, I'd say, yeah, I think you could trust them with this car. Now, on the other hand, for 98% of the people like I went to high school with, half those kids, I mean, I remember this one kid, he had an Audi, he completely, like, destroyed that car. Had, like, 140 horsepower, and he got, like, 5 speeding tickets. He also got a speeding ticket in a Prius. And most of the kids I went to school with were like that. And even some college kids today are still like that, you know? So this is probably not the car for them. I'm going to say for 98% of the teenage drivers or first-time drivers or young people in general, probably not the car. Now, that is to be said, they are responsible. So that is my take on it. You know, I've grown up around this car. I had to learn technically how to handle rear-wheel drive. I've never really driven a high-performance rear-wheel drive car until I drove this one. And this one was technically, I got my license, and I think it was like a month later, I was driving around in this by myself. But I already had in my mind that you have to respect the power, and you have to respect the fact that it's rear-wheel drive. And I think that's the difference with, like, I'm not saying like I'm better than everybody else, but I'm just saying I was always more responsible, even when I was little with my toys. You know, my mom would say, you know, if I broke a toy, it was accidental. I didn't mean to do it. Some kids, they just jam them into walls and stuff. I was never that type of kid. So I think that kind of translates down to how I am now with my car. And you got to learn to respect the power. If you're a young person looking to buy one of these, and you got all your financing and stuff, and you want to get a G8 GT, just learn this. Don't start really getting into it until you've driven the car a while. That is what I say, because if you don't know what you're doing with one of these, you will crash it. An unfortunate accident that happened here in Colorado. A 16-year-old kid was driving a G8 GT, had his friends in the car. It was his grandma's car, actually, and he crashed and killed one of his friends. They were going 98 miles an hour in a residential zone. So that's kind of my point, is most kids they're not mature enough to handle this type of car. So that was an unfortunate incident that happened. They hit I think it was a snow plow that was parked on the side of the street at almost over 100 miles an hour, I think is what the news story said. Impact, they lost control. They were going around the corner way too fast and just drifted in, smacked into that truck, and it ripped the back end of the G8 off. It was a bad day. That was 2 years ago. And that was, maybe that's why too. I was driving this car, and that was a real wake-up call for me to respect the power. So anyway, I hope that was that makes a little sense to you. That 98% of the kids probably shouldn't get a G8 GT. Look more towards the V6 cars. But on the other hand, if your kid's really responsible or he's grown up in motorsport, definitely look into it. I think you can trust him with this car. It's not a GT500 or a Ferrari or, you know, a Corvette or something. It's a little more practical, and it doesn't have that high of the horsepower. But anyway, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Oh yeah, there is a big winter storm coming in. So if you don't see any videos for a while, that is because I technically can't get my car out. I will be trying to put out some videos that I've already pre-recorded on Monday and Tuesday, but if the roads are pretty bad, I won't be driving this car. So just a heads up. So yeah, hopefully you guys all enjoyed the video. Check out the rest of the channel and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all in the next video sometime next week. So thank you guys for watching, and take it easy.